Indeed, you may not be able to change the direction of the winds, but you can change the direction of your sails in order to get to your destination. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Neota Igbe.
And from wherever you are, you can change course to Channels Television this hour and every day, all day. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
It's a Friday morning. It's September 22. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
And indeed, it's a beautiful day, but it's also a beautiful time to discover that somehow, somewhere, we always get to find out, or how do we say it? I mean, growing up, Ayo and Buki, you remember, if you were taught this, that 9 days are for the thieves, but 1 day is for the owner of the house. So yesterday, we get that news that the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has uncovered 4 illegal marketers of Jet A1 fuel. So are we going to get some kind of explanation how that matter of contaminated fuel in that aircraft came about? But that points to one thing. When the authorities decide they want to find something, they can find it. Someone told me one time on a lighter note, though, but it's true. He said, you see, when people say the civil service is corrupt, or corrupt, there are corrupt people, a lot of corrupt people in the civil service, not that the civil service is corrupt. There are a lot of corrupt people in the civil service. He says, there is no document they cannot trace. I said, what do you mean? He said, as far as the document has come in, spend 100, 200 years and come back. They can trace that document, when it came in, where it went to, where it is, and the status of that document at that point in time. It speaks a lot to the kind of system we have. If we can just begin to do, as someone would say, use the political will, or whichever will there is, to do the right thing, and consequence management. Let those who have done wrong be punished and be seen to have been punished, and then those who deserve to be rewarded, be rewarded. Ayo, Buki.
You know, Nyota, if you had not, it would have been remiss of you not to talk about consequence management, you know, which is one of the things you're known for on the program. And this is what this is about, really. You know, if Maokwe had been here, I'm sure she would also have asked, you know, what really is our challenge in this country? Because last year, we also had a case of contaminated petrol, you know, which caused petrol scarcity to linger on for a very long time. But what was the outcome of that? You know, we had talks from the NNPC publishing names of those who were responsible for the importation. The House of Representatives talked tough. Even the president, you know, also made some directives. But if you and I went to check, you know, perhaps we'll find those companies back importing fuel. So, you know, who wielded the big stick in that regard? Max Air had its operations, you know, suspended as a result of the discovery of contaminated fuel in its operations. And now we've had 4 companies discovered importing contaminated Jet A1 fuel, which has a lot of implications for air travel in the country. This should not be taken lightly at all. Who is the regulatory agency responsible? Is it the NMDPRA, or is it joint regulation by the NMDPRA and the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority? How did they find their way into the nation's airports? These are some of the important questions that should be asked. And what would happen? Why were the names not published? Will they still be importing fuel 1 year down the line? Perhaps if nothing happens, you know, as a result of this discovery. You know, it goes beyond publishing news that, oh, we've made progress. But what happens as a result of the progress? Ayo.
You know, first of all, when it sounded like I hadn't even heard it before when Nyota made the announcement, that I said, wow, like I was hearing it for the first time. Because it suddenly dawned on me, I mean, come on, it's Jet A1, it's not for vehicles on the road. It just suddenly dawned on me, what if something happened while me there? What if it was an international flight? What, just all kinds of what ifs. But at least cheering to know that, 1, we haven't had any accident as a result. The NCAA uncovered 4 non-licensed, and that is instructive. Mm-hmm. They have not been licensed, and they were supplying Jet A1 fuel across the country. Now, it is also interesting that it's as a result of a recent incident of contamination of aviation fuel, which would have led to catastrophic consequences. We also understand that the NCAA did this in collaboration with the NMDPRA, Bukola, as you mentioned the other time, and they drew committee members from Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, DSS, and the Association of Fuel Marketers in the country. And all of that has gotten to that. Members of the committee are also expected to conduct a holistic review and audit all fuelers, fueling facilities and equipment from the initial source of the fuel to the point of fueling into the aircraft within 60 days. So this is where we are at this point. The question is, and Nyota, you are correct, what would be the consequences? And Bukola, you are also correct, because we've seen situations in the country where people were fingered for doing one thing or the other, and next thing you know, they are back there doing it again, unannounced. So, NCAA, I guess this is back in your court. So these people have been doing this for a while. Is this going to be another case of oil thieves who have been identified but are not made public? What if lives had been lost because some people are making money? Too many questions to ask, but we still wait for the final report of the committee. Nyota.
Indeed, while we wait for that, the authorities should also be looking at other infractions that might have been made by other people and ensure, again, Buki, as we said earlier, consequence management. It has to be done. It's not enough to probe and then you put it out there, okay, we have found this person. What are you going to do about that? And let it be seen to have been done in order to deter others. But it's also very, very instructive to note that these things, what would even give those people the impetus to begin to consider, not that they even started the importation, to begin to consider and then supply. You might be shocked also that it may not even be those 4 that brought in the contaminated fuel. So the question is, let the probe be thorough and let those that deserve to be punished be punished. But above all, let safety prevail. And you who's out there, you might be thinking, hey, it's not me. But hey, tomorrow you might get that opportunity. Would you do wrong or would you do right? As we said, you can change you may not be able to change the direction of the wind, but you can change the direction of your sail. At that point, I would change, or we will change the direction of our sail here and return to look at what some of the dailies are saying. Don't go. So I'm starting out with this Nigeria because the front story is about Abuja. Yeah, FCTA revokes 166 plots in Asokoro, Maitama, others. How did they put it? One of those dailies called it Hurricane Wiki. FCTA revokes 166 plots in Asokoro, Maitama, others. And see the right that all those that are affected: Obi, Darie, Imoke, Agabi, Udoma, Nikitobi, Julius Berger, Honeywell, among ex-governors, former ministers, and other top Nigerians, companies affected. And the reason? Non-compliance with land use law cited. You get more details of that on page 2. I know you heard the names that I mentioned there. Who are the others? So go to page 2. Might be able to get all the others who have been affected by this. I do know that for a couple of days there was this publication in the papers in this Nigeria also, where a list of plots that were having issues, or names, people that had issues with land rent or ground rent, were mentioned. But hey, so go there and see what the details are. Below that, Justice for Mohbad, Solidarity March. You see that picture. This time, these ones are addressed in White House in Lagos. But there were protests, or rallies rather, in Oyo, in Osun and Ekiti, all demanding justice for the young man who has passed on. But see this, police confirm exhuming Mohbad's body for autopsy. Deceased mother seeks Naira Marley's arrest. Check page 21 for details of that story. And we'll leave it there for this Nigeria.
And turn to Leadership Friday this morning, which chose a different path, but just before I focus on Leadership Friday, one little bird told me, Nyota and Aya, that the National Assembly and perhaps the Villa may also be flouting the town planning laws and the FCT. So who's going to revoke those licenses?
We'll just readjust the plan.
Maybe the wind will go a different direction this time around. Let's turn to Leadership Friday. Depleting number of justices overstretches Supreme Court. Justices now 11 as Amina Augie bows out. And of course, we got a recap of her bowing out ceremony yesterday on the news at 10. The second of the rider says, calls for constitution review to free courts from undue hardships. And you see there on the front page, a pictorial illustration of the depleting number of justices. Perhaps at the top you'll find that representative, the one in red with the wig of the justices, representative of the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the High Court, and the lowest court at the wrong there. And then you see the presidential candidates of both opposition parties, the main opposition party, PDP, and the Labour Party at the bottom. There's further details there about who will hear their appeals and many other details, detailing the challenges of the judiciary. Take a look at the story just under the big story of Leadership Friday this morning. Shaibu surrenders, begs Obaseki for forgiveness. That's also, captured on our main bulletin yesterday, news at 10. We saw the Deputy Governor of Edo State, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, asking the Governor of Edo State, to forgive him. Of course, the coming days will be telling about the politics at the highest level in Edo State. And lastly, calm returns as police lift 24-hour curfew in Kano State. Of course, the governor has said that the NNPP, the state, will appeal the Kano State Election Petition Tribunal ruling. Let's leave it there for Leadership Friday.
The Guardian newspaper is next this morning, and the story is no less concerning. And it is a concern that had been raised quite a few times by the DG of NAFDAC. Paradox of plenty. Nigeria loses 1 trillion naira yearly importing active pharmaceutical ingredients. So what if those other countries say, no, we're not selling to you anymore? What happens? Anyway, the details you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of the paper this morning. And a good number of stories you'll find on the front page of the paper. Right under the big story, Dangote Modular Refineries abandoned petrol refining over return of subsidy. What does that mean? Find it on page 15 and several other stories that you will find interesting, including this one. MPC meeting postponed as CBN faces leadership vacuum. That story is on page 3. So, National Assembly, ball in your court. Finance Minister blames Naira's dive on $6.8 billion overdue payments. Whoa. That's the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Vanguard's the one other paper I have here, and they lead with Labour Matters, says fresh strike looms as NLC's ultimatum expires today. NLC leaders meet next week as FG gets desperate to avert action. Continues on page 5. Below that, again, gunmen murder ASP inspector in Enugu, police patrol ambush. Page 11. No, this idea or news of attacks on security operatives speaks a lot about our thinking. These are our brothers and our sisters who have opted to protect us, and they should also be protected. But go to page 11 and get details of that. Above the nameplate, Shaibu apologizes to Obaseki over feud, seeks forgiveness. Page 10, non-debt, Obi, Boa, Julius Berger, Gabi, others lose Abuja land as Wike revokes 167. Vanguard says 167. This Nigeria said 166. It's on page 4. Detail, Tinubu to UN. I fought for democracy, determined to prove it can provide development. Check page 9. President's words, strong words to the United Nations again. Then just before we go to the sports page, Mr. and Mrs. Of course, I remember the marriage vows, today being Friday, but I won't let you mess up my hairdo because you're cold. If you're cold, you can always drink hot tea. Tea, Mr. says, in this cold weather? Okay, tell the maids to bring it to the bedroom. And you can imagine what Mrs. response will be to that request. The back page of Sport of Vanguard, a bit of sports there. So FIFA rankings, Super Eagles drop one step, now 40th. Despite 6-0 thrashing of Sao Tome and Principe, remain 6th in Africa. That's the latest of FIFA ranking. And then Africa Football League, Wydad reveals plans for Eyimba trip. Interesting times for Nigerian football and all that. That's it from Vanguard.
A new Telegraph is up next this morning, and of course it trails happenings at the 78th UN General Assembly with, the words of Mr. President to the global organization. Tinubu to Guterres, the world will ignore Nigeria at its own peril. Bold positions coming out from Mr. President there, not just, from his speech, but from his interaction. Well, says human rights advocacy shielding criminals. Continent won't accept mineral wealth scavengers. Is first African president to ring Nasdaq's closing bell. That also drew quite some reactions yesterday. Assures investors of free movement of funds. Well, another story on the front page of New Telegraph that, getting a lot of reactions is the one at the top of the nameplate. At 600 Naira pump rise, FG, that's federal government, has returned fuel subsidy. Budget CEO, that's ascribed to the budget CEO. Now, it seems to be at variance with one of the bold positions, yes, that word comes up again, expressed by Mr. President during his speech at the UN General Assembly, where he says one of the decisions he took, upon assumption of office was the removal of fuel subsidy. Well, back home, it seems subsidy is back, and does this confirm the position of his aide some weeks ago, where he says that the government will deal with the inefficiencies in the downstream sector such that prices do not go up. There seems to be a big need for more transparency in that sector. Well, there are quite a number of other stories at the bottom strip. Tribunal affirms Mba's election, dismisses NYC forgery petitions. That's a page 2 read inside New Telegraph. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph this morning.
Nigerian News Direct has this on its front page, and it's about illegal mining. The president again talking tough. Africa will no longer permit smuggling of weapons, mineral resources. Find the details of that story on page 11. The writers pledges to avoid rest until every Nigerian is lifted out of poverty. Woos Nigerians in diaspora to return home. U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary comments Tinubu says Nigeria is proving to be a new frontier for investment. Details of that you'll find on the inside pages this morning, along with several other stories that you'll find interesting on the front page of the paper today. And right above the nameplate, 2024 polls. Shaibu begs Obaseki as Edo Central stakeholders kick against his ambition. Okay. Peter Obi, Bua, Julius Berger, others lose lands in Abuja as Wike revokes 165 plots. Seems quite a lot is happening in Abuja these days. And I don't know who is happy or not with those developments. Mohbad, police exhume body, complete autopsy. Find that story on page 3 of Nigerian News Direct this morning, and several others you will find interesting. That's the Nigerian News Direct today.
And Daily Trust is the other one here. Naira crosses 1,000 naira to the dollar in black market. That's their lead story. Cost of living will increase. Experts are speaking. Money laundering, others fueling pressure. Well, President's economic team and the state government's economic teams need to come together and sort this matter out. New CBN governor, what are we going to do? Some say it's because we're not producing anything. That's why the Naira continues to fall against the dollar. But I think there are other ways around this. Hey, it's time to be corrected. I'm always ready to learn. But above that, or just below the nameplate, IPI, International Press Institute, seeks probe Scops of Zamfara, journalists found in Sokaway. Tinubu to UN, take more actions on poverty, terrorism than talking. Page 3, we must push through the storm, sacks Governor Yusuf tells appointees. Then you see a plethora of pictures there. Kano lifts curfew, residents lament hardship is on page 3. Oh yeah, this is a good one. It's good for the Fridays. Matchmakers Association offers 4 women to tricyclists who returned 15 million naira. Okay, so he returned 15 million naira and he was offered 4 women by the Matchmakers Association. Wow. Okay. What a reward. Kogi governorship Adeyemi Achimogu asked Supreme Court to disqualify Ododo. And that's it from Daily Trust newspaper.
I'm wondering where that happened, Nyota. Your reward for being kind, 15 million naira is 4 women? Really? Okay.
Well, you guys are alone on that one. The Daily Times is up next this morning. And, well, it appears to have another dimension to the political spat, if you know, for want of better description, between the Edo governor and his deputy. Take a look at the headline. Edo 2024 succession crisis. Obaseki chases deputy away, reallocates office to private group. Deputy governor now operates from personal residence. No end in sight to saga. Well, it didn't capture the apology of the deputy governor to his principal yesterday. Perhaps it went to bed early, you know. But this is its own rendering of what's happening in Edo State. At the bottom of the big picture on the front page of Daily Times, there are a number of other stories. LP Enugu Guba candidates, that's the governorship candidates, to appeal tribunal verdict confirming Mba's victory. Security expert Lord CBN investigator Obaze. That's a page 3 read to follow up on continuing investigations of the leadership of the Apex Bank under the suspended former governor. And lawyer gives Adeleke 10 days to settle judges' allowances or face legal action. And lastly, 3 corps members freed in Zamfara, deployed to FCT, as ascribed to NYSC. And there's one rider that provides additional insight. Traditional rulers, security agents, others involved in push to release others. Let's leave it there for the Daily Times.
And also leave it at that for the papers this morning. We're back after now to take on 1 or 2 of those issues on the papers this morning. Just stay with us.
From Ado-Ekiti in Ekiti State to Ibadan in Oyo State and Osun State to Peckham in the United Kingdom, the message is the same: justice for Mohbad. Fans throng these cities to celebrate the memory of the late singer and demand an investigation into the circumstances that surround the death of the former Malian singer. In Ekiti, the youth, in their thousands, displayed placards and donned black outfits to identify with the mass movement as the procession goes from Exu Road axis of Ado-Ekiti to the popular Fajuyi Park.
Mohbad must get justice, and we really need it, justice for Mohbad, and that's the main reason why we are here too, and for the peaceful rally for Mohbad. Mohbad is from Ekiti State, and we are here for the peaceful rally and to ensure that federal government give us that justice.
In Oyo State, the protesters take to the streets, dressed in all black, some lighting candles, some holding up posters of Mohbad as they marched to his music playing through the speakers. In Osun State, the crowd is massive. The overhead shot shows a countless number of young people marching and singing Mohbad's song loudly, holding candles and catbirds with "Justice for Mohbad" boldly written on them.
What we want to say to Nigeria now is that please, especially our parents and the boys like we that are coming up, that if we see any record label, they are promising us some things, that we should not just jump inside the label, that we don't know what we are going to drop inside. Because many people are voicing out now. We are happy that many people are voicing out now. They are talking. They are saying what their eyes have been seeing. And what I want to do is that we should please, no matter how the depression, no matter how people that are molesting, we should try and voice out.
Fans of Mohbad in London hold a candlelight procession for him, walking to his music. Some hold up their phones and others candles.
But the most important thing is that they are working. So even as at now, I am receiving a lot of information and reports. And we will not just receive them, and that's to the general public. We're not just going to receive this and believe that, okay, we're going to receive this information and do a proper follow-up to see that it's actually, happening. And we're going to help the police by giving them every information that we have that can help Mohbad's case get justice. Justice will definitely be served, because this one is no retreat, no surrender. At the end of the day, we are doing it not just for Mohbad, but we are doing it for all our children and young ones out there. We need to keep the environment safe for them. It is time. The environment is polluted with drugs and a lot of things, and it's time that we have to purge it, we have to flush them out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, a good number of people may have just been rocking to the music of Mohbad without even knowing who did the song. Quite a number of people. And as you have seen from that report and in different parts of the country and outside of it, a sizable number of people also know who he is and the kind of songs, the kind of influence that he had in the industry. And now there is a call for justice for Mohbad, who's had to die under what is considered mysterious circumstances. Let's get some perspectives about this from Olawale Lukman, who is an artist, producer, and designer. Hopefully, well, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, sir.
Well, for those who have no idea what we are talking about here, exactly what do you think is happening from your perspective?
The Mohbad issue is kind of like really unfortunate for young, talented artists like that to be upcoming, and he just had his life cut short due to so many factors that, you know, has been grown with our society in Nigeria. So it's quite sad, and it's really unfortunate for his family as well, because his family, it seems like he's the breadwinner of his family. His dad and his mom really looked up to him to make stuff happen. You know, it's really sad. And ahead he also has like a son and his wife. It's really sad.
Is this someone you knew personally?
No, I never knew him personally.
Okay. But you're an artist.
Yes, sir.
From what you know about the circumstances, what are some of the things that people need to understand, and the reason that there is so much interest all over the world about this case?
I feel like one of the reasons why people are really interested is because they like to see young people coming up, and they don't like to see when it's just taking shots, especially when it's something that could have been avoided, which is like, you know, being terminated by an unknown cause in court. And they want to find out. They're very, like, curious. They want to know that, because I feel like it's something breeding up from every young Nigerian right now. They just want to fight for what is there. So, like, this also, like, comes in a certain time, like, from 2020 till now. It's like every young Nigerian is trying to be, you know, awoke and trying to, like, know every single thing that's happening, even down to the elections and everything. They just want to know. Like, for this case, it's like no one really knows what happened, but I'm sure the government is doing the best they can.
Oh, certainly. I mean, from what we hear about from the police and all of that. But the reason I'm asking you as an artist is, so there's all of the story making the rounds about his signing, his label, his former boss, and whatever word you want to use for that and all. What are some of the things that people need to understand? How does an artist get into signing, and what are the blind spots, if you can identify, that the artist is sometimes subjected to without knowing?
Now, for me, to be honest, like, if I don't see how the end is going to be from the beginning, I don't even go into it. It means, like, if I don't know how this contract is going to end, or how I see myself 5-10 years from now from signing this contract, I don't go into it. So people, like young talents in Nigeria, they have opportunities. Like, when they see these labels, they just, like, jump on the opportunities and just, like, you know, I want to do this, I want to make my family, you know, something, I want to do something for myself, and they don't really go through these contracts. They really don't know the terms. They don't do their background checks and all. So for him, I'm not too sure exactly what the record contract was, but I feel like he, at that moment, didn't really, like, know exactly, because they had a fallout. It was everywhere. He didn't. I don't think that was what he wished as planned. And there was some stuff on the news saying he didn't get royalties or everything. It's everywhere in the world. It's not even only in Nigeria. It's everywhere. But the only way that you could see through that is make sure from the first step, when the label boss comes to you, you do a background check on the label boss. How legitimate is the process? You know, because they just want to they just want to blow, right? They want to. The blow is a word used to making it, like, to rise to fame. So they just want to, you know, make it happen.
Don't worry, we are.
They want to blow quick, and it's really not like that, because all that glitters is not gold. You know, they can promise you a lot, and they just do like half of it, or even like little. But because you're a star, there's no way you're not gonna shine. So they just need to just put small light on you, and when it goes they'd be like, yo, okay, this guy's actually good. Even some labels, they're not 100% sure that this artist is going to make it.
Well, true. That's a fundamental problem, in the Nigerian music industry between performing artists and their record labels. But, help us connect the dots where Mohbad's case is concerned, particularly, with what you began by saying that his untimely death is due to many factors that shouldn't be, and, what has generated this movement across the country. Definitely, people believe something is responsible or someone is responsible. What's your own conviction, personal conviction about the circumstances surrounding Mohbad's curious death?
I mean, there's so many rumors around. If you're really on the internet, you see that there's this, there's that, there's this. You really can't pinpoint a finger and say this is what it is. But for me, it's really. Do you have something to say?
No, Go ahead.
No, it's really something that me myself, I can't say this is what it is, but it's definitely something, because if you see the videos, the images, the voice recordings from him, he has been battling a lot. Even from his best friend, I don't know, the artist Bella Smarter is also involved in trying to say that, oh, why is Mohbad being treated bad? It's everyone on social media. Everyone is saying they've seen videos, they've seen pictures of him being bullied and all. So I feel like that triggered people, why has he been bullied all this while and we're just finding out? And that's why everyone is like, no, we can't take this. We need to know who did this, who did that. And, there's just so many fingers pointing, but we really don't know, because the government still has to.
Well, we're going to have to find out, and that's why the police is also taking the lead on that. But Atoyota Kwabome has since joined us, Alibaba, the comedian. He's also part of this conversation. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for inviting.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure we're crossing some T's and dotting some I's there. Are you hopeful that the police will do a satisfactory job? Do you think the young people in the country will be satisfied with the findings of the police?
Yes, I feel very confident, because now it's really transparent. There's Twitter to give us live updates, okay, the body has been taken out from the grave, and now there's an autopsy going on.
Autopsy has been completed?
Yes, which they said it was complete. So all that is very nice to know that everything is being transparent. Before, we don't know this. We probably find out on the news or we find out in the newspaper, but now it's direct. We're speaking to you can send a tweet straight to the police. There's so many police accounts. You can send a tweet and he responds. So now it's more communication is both ways. You just don't want to be passing on in this. So as a human being, when you're receiving replies and communication back, I feel like you get satisfied to a point. So people, after this, when the police gets to the point where we know this is what happens, I feel like people should be satisfied.
Yeah. Back to the conversation, about the pressures young people face, particularly artists. I attended a conference, just some months back. It was on Boy Child, and I had an interaction with the young teenage boys there, and some of the performing artists amongst them said, it's the strong belief out there that if you are not a part of a cult, you cannot blow using your language. Is that true? And is that one of the, part of the pressures that young people face, particularly performing artists in the Nigerian music industry?
I find that very false, because I feel like what the calls and codes guarantees you is power and access. You feel me? But it's not going to change your talent, and whether you're joining a cult or not, it doesn't mean there's going to be financial responsibility from the cult. The cult is probably just going to give you the connections.
But the problem is there.
That's the problem, because
it's there.
Because it's a big problem, because it's a mentality that you have to join. It's almost like the same strategy they even invoke people, even in gangs and outside the world, outside Nigeria. They always try to say, oh, you have to join this gang because this is that, but that doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Oh, well, as I said, Mr. Kwabome has since joined us. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Help us understand, first of all, what blind spots could we be missing in these conversations going on around Mohbad?
First thing for me is that people are beginning to look at the consequences without looking at the causes. The causes of things like this is society in the first place. We have to begin to look at our society again. From the time when we start growing up, you have people ingrain peer pressure on us. Even our parents do it. Our parents tell you, oh, look at what your friends are doing. Look at what your friends are doing. Your friend is having A+. How come you don't have A+? Your friend is having 5 credits. How come you had 3 credits? And so gradually people then begin to compare themselves to others. And what then happens is that the yardsticks that you give to your children then begin to differ from the real things that they do. So what you need to do is begin to look at what kind of moral yardsticks and training have been given to children. What are these children taught to do? You make children have aspirations that are bigger than them. You make children see the things that are going on all around them. They see people who have sudden wealth. They see people who are living the kind of life that they can't live, and nobody is checking them, and there's no question. And they begin to want to live like that. What is peer pressure? Peer pressure is wanting somebody to do something for themselves by pressuring them to do it. Now, it can go 2 ways. It can be positive and it can be negative. If you are pressuring someone to do better, it's okay. But if you are pressuring someone to do something bad, then that's the problem. And this happens everywhere. We're not just talking about these Mohbad kids. But the thing is that it's happening everywhere. A young person who decides that she wants to begin to wear fake eyelashes must have been pressured by some other people. The young person who decides to do body enhancement must have been pressured by other people. You find these days, you find a child of 10, 11 wants to wear lipstick just like her mom, or she wants to wear lipstick or makeup just like her mom because she can see it being done. And then it's the same thing with the young people who then bleach themselves. They bleach their skins because they have seen that the people who bleach their skins are treated better or have more friends.
It's interesting, Ali, that, in all of these, while, a host of people will actually agree with, so many things that you're saying about peer pressure and all of that. I even have a theory that even the parents themselves are peer pressured. But can we look beyond that and look at the industry? You have been in the industry, you've seen it all. The movie sector, the comedy sector, the music sector. Even if you are not a practitioner in any of them, you know what goes on. So I'm asking concerning the blind spots that aspiring entertainers could be subjected to without knowing it. Olawale here talking to us has said that as far as he is concerned, if he doesn't get the details, he's not even going to sign. But I don't think that is the same thing for everyone who wants to, as he said, blow.
Okay, so the thing is that the blind spots are there. They know what the blind spots are, but they think they can manage it. So what happens with a lot of young artists is that they think these blind spots, that they can manage it. For instance, you're signing a record deal and the person says, you give us 2 records in 3 years. You give us 2 records in 3 years. But you see, the record company as well, or the record label, will go to an extent to provide all of the things that you need for you to achieve that. But in that space, you still have other challenges. Challenges of women, challenges of money, challenges of drugs, challenges of image, challenges of fashion and keeping up with the Joneses, financial challenges, and all of these are in your face and they're out there. So the record label may sign you, but the record label will not give you discipline. The record label will sign you, but they will not give you discipline. Your personal convictions are the things that will pull you through any of those things. So the blind spots might be there, but if you run into them and like a pothole, you will see them coming. You will see them right in your face. But it depends on how you attend to this. If you sign with a record label and they say, oh, smoke Igbo, and you say, no, smoke marijuana, and you say, no, I don't smoke, the peer pressure will now come in thinking that it will stop you from being great. It will stop you from being, or if because you signed with the record label, you say, oh, you can't wear a belt, you can't, you have to always sign. You say, no, I like to dress properly. If you then don't dress properly, it becomes an issue. I know a guy whose son went into music and came back one day and said, the guys he's with insist that he should do a tattoo. And the boy said that he didn't want to do a tattoo. And because he didn't want to do a tattoo, they told him he's not ready. So when a label or a platform that you want to belong to tell you you are not ready because there are certain things that you don't do, either you don't drink, you don't smoke, or you don't womanize or hang out with them when they go to those clubs and begin to mix all kind of and all those things that Olamide sang about, you then become pressured. These are the things that we're talking about. Those are the blind spots. The only thing that can take you through all of this is discipline.
Mr. Akpobome, I'm going to ask you a direct question now, because in expounding on the blind spots, you've touched on a lot of things, Igbo, women, drugs, and all of that. So is this generic, or is just a Malian culture?
No. The Malian culture is not even as deep. It's just that the Malian culture was slightly negative. First of all, it is that you don't have respect for constituted authority. You don't have respect for norms. You know, there are other people who feel like, oh, if you have to smoke for you to be talented. You have to, well, they're sagging and they're not wearing a belt. So that there are a lot of things that people bring into their own clique and cult, and they want every other person to, because they feel like it's a lifestyle. But if you make it look like a lifestyle, and I don't want to belong to that life, all I want to be is a creative, then you can't force me. That's why I talked about discipline. The discipline is the only thing that can keep you in that space where you do not want to be corrupted, you do not want to be influenced, and you can then still be creative without. Fashion is a style, but you must own that style for you to become the person you want to be. You don't. As soon as you begin to conform and belong, and conform to the dictates of the people who are in that clique, then it's gone.
So how pervasive is it then? Are all music labels, within the mainstream Nigerian music industry culpable where all of these vices are concerned? Are they all culpable?
No, of course not. Of course not. I can from the top of my head, I can say Kenny's music did not make anybody dress in a different way. Hypertech music did not make anybody dress in a different way. What's it called? When Olisa Adiboa and Obi Asika had Storm Records, they did not make anybody dress in a different way. So what is happening these days is that we also know of the one that has Casey, and they had Harry Song. You still see these people, their sense of morality and everything did not change. You do not, for instance, you see a guy who says, I cannot hold a drink in a video. It does not make my song better. I will not smoke Igbo in a video just so that people believe that I belong. I don't want to look cool just because some ladies are shaking their bum on my video. So the artist himself or herself can define the way he wants to go. The problem is conformity. If you conform to any of all those things, then you are gone.
As much as I would have loved to, have the other names mentioned, just for awareness' sake, I'll leave it there for now and make them, reflect on what you have said. I'm sure Nyota has other questions for you. Nyota.
Yeah, thank you very much, Buki. But before I come to Mr. Toyota, let me start off with the artists. I know Mr. Akpobome is also an artist himself in his own right, but let me start with the younger artist and then come back to Alibaba. Olale, you're an artist, a producer, and designer. Now, when you talked about the contract situation, some of the contracts that some of your colleagues have had to sign, the question I wanted to ask is, were they given any opportunity to bring a lawyer in to read that contract? Is it that when you're about to sign that contract, you're told you must sign it here, you're not given the contract to go and study and get somebody else to look at it before you sign? Is that how it's done?
To be very honest, I don't think so. What I think basically is when people get this contract, as young people, we get really like hyped. And it's like we don't even think about what exactly we're trying to do with this contract. They just want to sign it. They just want to, they see the big numbers because contracts, they know how to, the labels know how to structure a contract that they just put the big numbers and they just make sure you see, oh, you're getting $100,000 advance and this, but they don't know that the $100,000 advance is a loan. It's basically a loan. You have to pay it by sweat or anything. You have to pay that loan. You know, that's why so many of these artists get trapped in record labels and they can't do nothing about it. And some people don't even get signed with contracts. Some people get signed by initiation, by like, yo, we're cult members now. This is what it is. You have to. So some people don't even have the luxury of getting a contract. They already have agreements that already feels like, oh, you're a family member or now you're a label member. Some people don't even sign contracts. They, you know, so it's different ways, but it doesn't make sense for an artist where you know you're really talented and they just give you a contract, because there's even so much knowledge about that on the internet right now. There's even a book called A to Z about the music industry. You learn publishing, royalties, mechanical royalties, performance rights, everything. You know, even if you can't read that, there are people that right now you can watch and you can like seek advice from. Because now that the talents is being exported worldwide, like we have Grammy Award winning artists, we have platinum selling, we have an artist that's doing 1 billion streams worldwide. The industry is getting more exposed and you have to be more exposed to make it here. It's not back then, because then even if you go through the old route, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be happy with yourself as an artist because you're not going to blow.
So you want to blow. Mr. Akpobham mentioned some things earlier about the pressure that comes, but there was something he mentioned. What about your personal values? What gives you the impetus to say, I won't do this for all the money in the world? You, for instance, what personal values do you have in this business to say, I won't do this or I won't do that, I won't step there?
I mean, to be very honest, people have different upbringings, and which plays a very big role in, because I see, regardless of how successful you are, if you're not successful in your personal life, which is your family and everything, you're not successful, because you're going to go back home and cry because you don't have a successful home, no matter how many people you're performing to. But for me, the way that I grew up, because I'm a Muslim, and I grew up from a home where my mom and my dad is always like on my, you know, you have to make sure like you do this, do that. Like I'm brought up in a way, but some people don't have the luxury of that. But I feel like regardless of how you're being brought up, I know some people have traumas, they have PTSD, but as a human being, you can tell right from wrong, because if not, you'll probably be in jail right now. You know that there are rules, you know this is right from wrong, but you can always change yourself. I feel like as human beings, regardless of what we have faced, what we have been through, we can always become better people. You know, I can see someone that even right now is probably better than me with the attitude, behavior, and pattern, because the person went through so much stuff and it's like, I'm not doing that again. It takes a really mental discipline for you to go through all that. But it's not easy as it seems, because as I'm talking about it now, it looks easy, but that's the right way to go. If you really want to blow and succeed in a way that you don't want to end up having this type of issues, that your life is cut short or anything, you have to go through that. You want to be a mega superstar, you have to go through that. You know, you want to win these Grammy Awards and everything, you have to go through that. You have to change. You know, where you're coming from doesn't define you. You feel me? It only reflects, but you can redefine yourself. You can refine yourself. You know, for Wizkid, Davido, for them to be on that stage, they had to refine themselves, regardless of where they came from. You know, Wizkid had to make sure, oh, I'm dressing like this, I'm looking like this, my brand shouldn't be associated with this. But that's not where Wizkid came from. He came from Surulere with the thugs in small London, in Shita, where they're smoking and everything. They're doing hard drugs. I'm sure Wizkid doesn't do cocaine or some hard drug that is gonna, because you can't be on that level and not know what you're doing. So if you want to do that, if that's your...
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let me take this to Mr. Akpobome. Mr. Akpobome, you pointed out a couple of things, and I think I would like us to start off from that angle. One of the things you point out is, yes, values, but you also hit on parenting. So what's the role of the examples that these young people get to see? What role does that play in their expressing the giftings that they have?
Okay, so what happens most times is that the aspirations don't meet the reality. So your aspirations are that you want to blow. But the thing is that your aspirations are driven by what you see. What are the parents showing to you? What is the society showing to you? In entertainment, for instance, it is clear that most times the influences, which is why people tell you, the artists are the ones that are making these children bad, because the children see them more. Sometimes the influences that people have are what they constantly have contact with. So if they have less contact with parents, or if the parents are doing things that are, for instance, I went to one party one time, and on the table that we were sitting, everybody was going to spray, and this man was sitting down, and somebody said, go and spray. Now you have more money than us, go and spray. And the man said, I won't spray. I can give money to this. And then he wrote a check, put it in an envelope, and called one of the girls to go give to the musician that was playing. What he gave to the musician was much more than what the people who went to spray gave. And so the musician continued calling his name. But they were telling him, he's calling your name, go up and dance, go up and dance. And the man said, no. His son was watching him. That is a lesson. The son saw him and saw that he did not go up to dance in spite of all the calls. So that is what should happen. I mentioned that parental guidance is very important. School as well should make people conform. That we hear of students who now bring cars to school. They've joined all kinds of fraudulent gangs, and so they do online fraud. They use cards, swipe cards, cheat, and defraud people online. These are people that then come to school. Even the parents do not ask, where did you get this kind of money from?
When did that happen? When did we lose that value system of saying, even the society, where did you get this from? How did you get this? What are you doing to be able to afford this? And then when the schools, you said something about the schools, when the schools even begin to enforce some of these values, society again comes out to say, no, these are not good schools. They are mean schools.
Oh yes, exactly. I don't know if you recall, there was a girl in Queen's College who came to school with eyelashes and hair done and all of that. And the security, who was at the first point of correction, told the girl, you can't go to school like this. You can't enter this school like this, and sent the girl back. The mother came to school and fought with the security. When some of us said, oh no, the security was right, there were people who were telling us that we should let the girl be. We cannot define what the girl wants to do. The same people are now saying, some things that the Malians did are wrong. This is the thing that is happening. Our society needs to put their foot down on certain things. When you do not attain when you've not attained a particular age, there are things you can't do. There are things you can't do. It should be clear. When you are in school, you cannot dress like this. And then you then come to school like that. And then the first point of correction, who's the security man, the gate man, says, you can't come into this school like when we were in school. If you come late, the gate men are the ones that will flog you first for the day students. And then if you wake up late, the military people will come and beat you off your bed. That's discipline. We're not having that anymore. These days you hear, you can't punish corporal punishment I hear is wrong. But the thing is that it set some of us right. It set some of us right, but those things are missing now, and it's missing. If you go to Covenant University, the kind of moral value and instructions they get is different from any other school where anybody can do anything they want to do. You can't come to class looking like you are going to a nightclub. It is not promoted.
Let me just interrupt you here real quick. We'll take a short break. I will come back to continue this conversation, because there is that bit of, okay, so your parents are not there to pressure you, but you as an adult, Who do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What are you going to do about that? Are you going to let people define you, or evaluate you? We'll look at that when we come back from this break. Please don't go away.
We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bowl Rice. Homegrown just like you. Big Bowl Rice. Tasty rice. Nourished you.
And indigestion? Try Gestede. My recommendation for the past 26 years, Gestede. Reliable remedy for heartburn, indigestion, flatulence, and acidity.
Southwood. Fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700-FURNITURE.
Thank you very much for staying with us. We still have here, joining us virtually at Toyota Pobome, aka Alibaba, who joined us virtually. And in our Lagos studio, we have Olawale Lukman, artist, producer, and designer. And we're discussing this, the young people and peer pressure, a fallout of the Mohbad situation. Mr. Pobome, let's, before we went on that break, we're talking about the choices we have to make. Sometimes not necessarily because of where you're coming from. I mean, Olawale mentioned that Wizkid has had to define himself, to reevaluate himself and say, okay, this I will not do. You also talked about a young man or an artist who will say, I will not hold a cup in my video, or I will not smoke in my video. It doesn't change the fact that you have quality. But then there's this idea that when you do these things, that's what gives you credence. So at what point would you say, do artists get to that point and say, hey, enough is enough? For you, for instance, let me put it this way. You have had to mentor some artists. Are there some that have told you, Oga, at this point, I won't do this because this is who I am? And how did you manage that?
So there was somebody called me once and said he wanted somebody to come and be. This is a young guy. Said he wanted the guy to come and perform. And the guy said, bros, is that guy not the guy that is facing charges for so and so? And I said, yeah. He said, no, I'm not available. And so he said that I've read the things and I think he did those things and I will not perform them. He's a young comedian, doing very well, just finished 2 of his shows in Lagos and Abuja. Young guy, too. And so, for me, it was that I was booked. And I told him, I said, you're just going there to provide a service. He said, I know, bros, but I don't like the man. So some people can say no. You see, there are people you can mention, Daria Talade, Kobams, Timi Dakolo. There are people who are living above those things. They don't smoke. They don't hold cigarette. They don't hold a glass cup and drink whiskey in their movies. They don't have people who then come on their videos and they insist on it. Even if the choreographer says, oh, it will add color to the video, they will say no. So what should happen really is that as an artist yourself, you must define your purpose. You must hold on to some strong values that you've been brought up with. There was a guy who called me once and said he has an event. They'll pay me, and this is in the presidency. So to tell you how high it can go, they'll pay me so and so amount. I said no, that I'll take 3. I'll take 3 million. He said no. This is a while back. I said 3 million. He said no, that it is 2 million that they have. I said no, 3. So he said okay, fine. We'll take 3 million. They'll give you 3 million. Then he calls me and says they'll send me a receipt that I should sign for 5 million, that they want to give the other 2 million to the other people. And I said, I'm not doing the event. And I walked away. I said I was not doing the event. They then called me later and said, well, why did you say you won't take 5 million? I said, no, that I said I am booked. I just didn't want to say that guy, because for me, there are some things that you would not want to do, and you must stick to it. It is the same thing with some of these artists. There are some of them do rituals now, some of them. So if you are someone who is in a position with your creative abilities, and you know you don't need that kind of pressure. You don't need somebody making you sign or take an oath for you to be creative. The need to blow, which is what I need to mention. The need to blow is what is overriding some of these values. The need to blow, which is where the pressure comes from. People just want to blow. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to make money. They want to belong. And because of that, they step back from the values that they've been brought up with and do what they shouldn't.
Olawale, let me come to you here, Olawale, just before my colleagues kick in. So you're under a lot of pressure, and I'm sure of it. But for one who does, you do your music, you produce others, and then you do designs for some of these artists. At what point would you say enough is enough?
What do you mean enough is enough? Like,
at what point would you say I will not cross this line? This I cannot do, that I cannot do, this I can do, that I will not stand?
I mean, for me personally, I do not involve myself in intoxicating myself to like design, because I feel like I tap in my natural, the best creativity comes from like when I'm in my natural state. Like, I don't drink and I don't smoke. So for me, it's like when I see a bunch of people, my friends know, like when they see a bunch of people smoking and all, like I'm just going to be like, you know what, I'm going to step aside and just chill outside. But if it's somewhere that I cannot, and they're like, yo, do you want? I'm like, nah, it's not me. And they're like, are you sure that you look like someone? I'm always get judged in that, but I'm like, yeah, I get it, which is kind of like very, you know, it's very nice for me, because you always think I am that person, but I'm not. You feel me? But at that moment when I'm like, I cannot do this, I can't do this, it's because I feel like it's growth for me. I'm growing, you know, and so many people just fall into that when they just have a bunch of friends. You know, I have over like 10, 20 friends. Not friends, but I don't have a lot of friends, but I'll be in a room that I know about 15 people, and half of them smoke. And if they pass it to me, I'm like, nah. Or if I get like, if probably I get like, oh, you want me to design some stuff for you, but the way you're going about it is not professional, and you're trying to take advantage of whatever intellectual property I'm offering, I'm like, yo, we need to reevaluate our values here.
So sounds like you want to blow on your own terms, not on societal terms.
Yes, and I feel like that's the best way, because then you have peace of mind at the end of the day.
You know, I want to ask you industry questions, right? Yes. Yourself and Mr. Pope, I think Bukola has a number of questions for you first.
Yeah, for me now, what's important, and I'd like to bring this to Mr. Pope, but Olawale, you weigh in on it first. Beyond getting justice for Mohbad has been identified as, you know, one very big talent that churned out, you know, a number of classics. What can be done such that, you know, because you also mentioned that he was the, you know, breadwinner of his family, was trying to support his family. What can be done to ensure that, you know, all of his songs, his works, you know, continue to generate some form of income for his family, and who should lead that charge?
To be very honest, I think the label he was with, if they're kind enough, they can release his catalog to his family, but you know, still backtrack into the industry that we're in. It's not really developed to an extent that it can fully maximize full profits from everything, because there's so many places that we're not making money from in the industry, which I feel like as we grow and we get more global, people will start making incomes. But for that, I feel like the label can be, you know, just be like, you know, with all this happening, we can see the situation of your family. We've made enough money, and most likely they've recouped their advance. I feel like they can just, you know, give him, because I don't know if you see this thing in America where they say they've given back the masters. 50 Cent gets back his masters. So if they can give Mohbad his masters, that will do a lot, because then his music now is topping the charts. If you go check Apple Music, it's top 10, everything. All that streaming revenue can be tailored down to his family, because for Spotify, for 1 million streams, you make $4,000. $4,000 now in Naira is about 4 million Naira. And he has made more than that. He's made over 10 million in the past few days. So that's a lot of money for his family. So, you know, that would be really good.
Yeah, Mr. Kwabame, same question for you.
Okay, so when you know, there is a lot they can do to monetize his estate, his creative estate, from T-shirts that are made, his name, you know, and then there could be collabos, the video, Whiskey, and also can weigh in on some of his songs and give you some new bites. Some people can pay to use some of his beats and remix those beats and create more songs. But before I then go on, I need to just quickly not backtrack to the issue of artists living in spite of living above all this peer pressure. There was a guy who, of blessed memory, Sound Sultan. Sound Sultan will stay with a lot of artists who smoke, who drink, and do all kinds of things. Sound Sultan will still get up at a particular time and say, I'm going to pray. Sound Sultan is a great example that we want other artists to take after. That said, when it then comes to monetizing what these guys make, there was a time we had a meeting at a hotel with Jonathan. And I raised an issue, myself and Amaka Igwe raised an issue and said, it is not about government giving us money. There's enough money for us to make, to even give government money. What we need is for piracy to be tackled so that people can be making money from their sweat. And some artists in the hall told me to shut up and sit down. It's on video. They told me to go sit down, that I don't know what I'm talking about. The government should bring money. The same artists put their videos on this thing, and then when it was pirated, they started protesting, did me a letter and said I should come and join the protest march to allow her. And I said, I'm not going. When I mentioned it, you people didn't do anything. There needs to be a proper structure for monetization of people's creative wealth. And then our piracy laws need to be readjusted and reamended and brought into this century. Somebody cannot pirate somebody's song, steal somebody's song, and he's paying 12,000 Naira when he's found guilty. These are the things that need to be done. And then contractual agreements need to be respected by record labels. Because if, like the young man mentioned, if these record labels honor those agreements, most of these artists will live big. They will live well. But they don't respect all those agreements. And then when you are going into a contract, get a lawyer to look into it. This was what my friend Efero Zako used to do then. He stood in for a lot of contracts that were against.
You know, you're veering, Mr. Kwabame, you're veering into the conversation that I want to actually have, the questions that I want to ask around the industry. Okay, what is it that is missing? How do we structure this industry? Get on Facebook, you'll see Paul Play continuously talking about the challenges of the industry. A conversation yesterday with KSB also talking about the need to structure the industry. And down through so many decades, you are very well aware, we once had a music industry, and now it seems that we do not anymore. Where did we lose it? And what needs to be brought back? I remember, of course, you would remember the days of Premier Music, the Sony Musics of this world, the Deccas of this world, and all of those things. They had... Sorry, beg your pardon?
Tabansi and EMI.
Tabansi, EMI, and the rest of them. So what is it that we missed, we lost, that needs to be brought back? Because I feel that if we had those, the kind of issues we are having with Mohbad now, talking about this now, we wouldn't be having it. So what did we miss? And what do we need to get it back?
Okay, so where we missed it is when we stopped being able to curate records, curate songs played, curate songs sold, and then the physical record labels and the recording companies disappeared from Nigeria. That is where we started losing it. Because when the record labels were here, they interfaced with the people in the market. But now the artists themselves are interfacing with people in the market. What we need is for the record labels to begin to set up record companies, not record labels, not the labels, the record company that has A&R, that has the full artist management, that can begin to look into artists' remuneration, marketing, promotion, publicity, image building, brand, and begin to get money for the effort that these artists are making and the creative work that they're churning out. What has happened is that a lot of that has been missing, and we need to bring it back. So back in the days,
I know that there's a lot of talk, in the industry about that. But how do we get there? Who leads the charge?
That is what we're saying. The people that invest in it now, and then the artists themselves have problems. Artists have problems. So you find somebody who, I need to mention this so that you can then look at it and see where the problem is coming from. So an artist somebody has a great talent. You go meet a record label and say, oh, I have so and so. And the record label says, okay, we need 4 or 5 years to maximize this talent that you have. And then they first start by paying for your music to be produced, paying for your music videos to be done. And they get you a house. They get you a car. Sometimes they get you a driver. In the house, you are not the one that will be doing your cleaning. They get you cable. They get you TVs. They get you air conditioning. In fact, everything is furnished. You are not the one that will be opening your gate. They get you a gate man. All that, for one artist, then costs you about like 30 million. But before they regain that money or recoup the money, they've spent that money for promotions. When you do all the TV rounds and media rounds, they've spent close to like 40, 50 million on these artists. Don't forget that every event the artist goes to, he has to wear new clothes. And all of these new clothes, new shoes, new accessories, all of these have to be paid for. Then when they finish spending that money, the artist has 5 years to go. After first year, he blows. Then his peer pressure comes in. The peer pressure is now like, oh boy, you are making more money than these guys. These guys are just ripping you off. Whatever. And then the guy begins to have issues with the record label. He now tells the record label he wants to pull out. Record label has not even recovered 30 million. So the record label is now fighting with the artist. The artist breaks away. He doesn't deliver the songs that he's supposed to deliver. Then gradually, record labels begin to have apathy. So when another person comes and says, they bring stronger contracts that tie the artist down and say, if you do not give me so, you cannot. We saw it with, there's a guy, Soli. And then even with Kiss Daniel, who he had to change his KISS to KIZZ. He had an issue too. So most times, people who own record labels are not ready to put their neck out for a lot of artists again, because the people who did it the first time, they can see that those people did not recover their money, because as soon as the person blows and feels that I can now command 5 million per event, then the record label that spent close to 50 million to make them comfortable and make their careers bloom do not have a say. So that is the problem. So when you ask that what can be done, these are the issues. The issues are that these artists can create. Some of them don't get the benefits of all the monies that have been spent on them. And then sometimes they tank because it is not always necessary. It doesn't always follow that you spent about like 50 million and the artist becomes big. So if the artist does not become big in the first album, the second and the third may then help you recover your money. But if it gets big, you then have another problem because as soon as he has blown, his pressure, the pressure he will get from his friends and hangers on will be like, man, pull out from this thing, let's run this thing ourselves. We can't be making 5 million, 10 million per show, and the record label is taking 3 million out of it. What nonsense. They forget that because a lot of artists that have pulled out by themselves and say, oh, I'm not doing it again, pull out, move out of the record labels benefits. So there's no house, there's no car, and they begin to fend for themselves. They tank. So those are the problems in the industry. That problem has not been stopped. And government has not even done well. You can set up.
If I may come in there, where is the loophole then? Is it in the contract signed, or is it that the artists are aware, but they just decide to pull out anyway when they see that the funds are not coming to them in record time? I wonder if you understand my question.
I understand your question. I understand it. But you see, it is also greed on the part of, and as you mentioned the peer pressure, it's also greed on the part of the artist. When you know that, because it's like somebody who sets up a company. He sets up the company, he spent about like 200-300, or in fact, 2 billion to set up a company and then employs people. The people who come in now see money flowing in. They're like, oh, our guy is making so much money and he doesn't want to increase our salary. Forgetting that the initial cost of setting up the company has not even been recouped. So what then happens is people then pressure them and make them feel that, oh, the contract is bad. You should be earning more than that. See, the money that was spent in making you blow has not been recovered. It has to be recovered first. And in the process, the person is still making sure that you're okay. So that needs to be sorted out. The other thing is that this piracy issue needs to be dealt with. Streaming platforms, it costs money to push an artist to the point where he gets to a streaming platform.
Getting to that point, Mr. Kwobome, where I think the industry has to sit down and have that conversation, because and I know that you and a number of other people have been, demonstrating interest in that regard for a while. We're running out of time, but I need to ask Mr. Olawale Lukman here a question or two. You've heard, how do you respond, first of all, to some of the issues, industry issues that he has mentioned?
Yes, I feel he made very valid points, and I also need to say that we're also dealing with human beings here, which the feelings and emotions are infinite. The labels as well are also greedy. The labels have shady. Even after the contract says, after every show, I'm getting the label is going to keep 3 million, you get 7 million out of 10 million. The labels, or even the people that the label employ, like your manager can be the one messing your career up, right? Your manager or even your lawyer who doesn't really know or even knows is still there's so many cases out there. So aside the artist being greedy, which is a very prominent thing in the industry, the labels as well are not very transparent enough. But when you now come and now say, oh, my label is doing this and that is shady, I want to go through my contract again, I want to review it, they say, no, you can't do that because the label is the boss, and they'll shut you up because you're not as big as them, you're not a don in the industry. The label has probably used like 10-15 years and you're just a small boy, you want to spoil their business for them, they'll shut you up.
Well, it sounds to me like you've taken a lot of lessons already this morning. But tell us about you. I mean, you getting into the groove yourself. What have you done? What are you doing? What are you about to do?
To be very honest with you, I started really, really early in knowing about all these things because I was really passionate about my craft. And I feel like it's just like your child. If you know that this is what you love so much, I feel like you should know everything about it. So me coming in, having these talents, being able to design fashion graphics, produce music, and also record music and everything, I had to learn from start. So I started Thirsty, which is my company, and I own it with partners. But I started a company next year will be 10 years. It'll be a decade where we started it. So it's like a creative collective, because I found that the best way to actualize your dreams and visualize it is to be, to have collaborations. So I made my friend is a producer, which I also learned more production from him. I have a friend is a designer. I have a friend is a photographer. All of us came together and it's like, you know what? Instead of going to look for all these things, let's form a collective ourselves. Let's make it happen by ourselves. So we are pushing everything. So I don't need to outsource this. I don't need to outsource that. I have 2 music studios by myself that even my artist friends just come and record sometimes. I have very industry standard equipment. I also have it's called a lab. It's like a workshop where we make custom pieces for artists. Every artist, Whiskey, Davido, Burna Boy, every artist has bought some shares. When I mean shares, they've bought very staple pieces. So from there, generate revenue, reinvest back in the company, able to fund the music as well. Because the thing is, you might not be able to get this funding from people, because people always say, I'm looking for an investor, I'm looking for an investor. It's nice, people have different ways, but me, I'm my own investor. You feel me? I made sure I invested in my friends who are my partners as well, so that now we're not just talking about money, we're talking about value.
Okay. So what's your stage name? You have
Straffiti.
Your pardon?
Straffiti, graffiti, but STRAFFITI.
And you've been in the industry, you've been in music itself for how long?
I really started putting out music myself around 2015.
Whoa.
But I've been with artists, I produce music as well. So actively for me as an artist, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but for production, for how long?
I've been producing since I was in GS3.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I kidnapped my mom's laptop at HP, and I put Fruity Loops. That's what they used to make beats. So I just make beats at the back of my room, and every time someone comes in my room, I just close it and so that they don't take the laptop from me. They didn't discover early. I was very smooth with it. They didn't. It was usually they discovered.
So tell us about the music component of your career. Besides, composition of songs, do you play musical instruments, and how does that complement your career?
I do not play any musical instruments, physically, but because of the way the softwares are, you can actually play this on your laptop. So I could play I could make beats. If you give me a laptop right now, I'll make a beat for everyone.
So you play the keyboard of the laptop.
Yes. Yeah. Basically.
That's the instrument you play.
Yes.
And you also play the microphone, because I tell myself that I play the microphone.
Yes. It's an instrument. It's a vocal. Some
tell them.
Some producers sample your vocals, and you get royalties of that.
Okay.
If you can sing, they take your vocals and they make it like an instrument. Then whenever streaming is coming, you're making money. You're getting a check every month.
Ayo, you should consider singing as well.
Well, let me ask my manager, Ali. What do you make of the aspirations of these young men, and what would be your counsel to a good number of them who are looking to blow but need to manage their expectations?
Okay, so what a lot of these artists do is that just have a mind map, and that stage where you're going, what the challenges will be, how you will surmount them. But having a great manager is important. And I need to mention managers that have their hair screwed on, like if you're Morigbe, Sunday Are, Edi Lawani used to manage some people as well. So the Burna Boy's mom. These are people who you need to. Any artist that wants a manager should say, I want somebody that is like that. Somebody that looks after your goals, looks after your career, looks after your creativity, and begins to push you towards aiming to achieve them. An artist that, most times, most of the artist managers are just messengers. So they can't question what the artist is doing. I've met someone one time when somebody said something to an artist and the artist wanted to respond. The artist manager said, don't do it. There are pressmen here. Let's finish everything. We'll talk about this later. And he listened. So you have to also have a listening artist, to have a manager who can say something that will help their careers. It's also important for a lot of these artists to find mentors who can talk to them, assist them. My office is open to a lot of these artists. They come in every now and then, but after they blow, we don't see them anymore. But it's important for them to always get the grains before they plant them, get the grains and make sure that the seedlings are properly checked. So when the person has the idea and has how he wants to push the idea out, you talk to them and let them know that, see, these are the pitfalls. This is what can happen to you if you don't grow properly. Some artists have come to me and I said, this music that you are trying to push out, which is the target market? Who is going to manage you? Who are you looking? You're looking for a record label. What are you looking for in a record label? They then tell you, I want to blow. Decide first. Sometimes you find you join a label and then you take on enemies. You join a label, there's somebody else that wants you to then do a collabo with them that would make you big. And then the label says, no, you can't because the guy and I are not talking. This is work. The artist doing a duet or a collabo with you would make your career grow further. And he says, no, I'm not talking with him. So you can't be borrowing friends. And borrowing enemies as well, especially when it has to do with your career.
Yeah, I think you're already beginning to talk about the issues you're going to raise in your industry conversations. So just take your own pen and paper and be writing them down. And it also sounds to me like you are recommending manager of managers in some way, because a good number of these managers, just as you said, they are servants. The artists don't listen to them and they need to learn the craft. Quite a lot to unpack, but we have to round it off at this time. We have to thank you very much for being here this morning. Atiyota Pobame, also known as Ali Baba, comedian and entertainment industry magnate, as well as Olawale Lukman, artist, producer, designer, and should I add label owner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should.
All right. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Yes,
so we're back in a moment to take on another conversation. Do stay with us.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Politicians make lofty campaign promises, but do they really fulfill them? Are you worried about the quality of governance? Do you know how to hold your public officers and politicians accountable? As a Nigerian, do you even know your rights? Many questions begging for answers, but don't you worry. We've got you covered. We bring you Democracy 101 in 5, your reliable and easy-to-digest guide on citizens' rights, government's responsibilities, rule of law, holding government accountable, and all things democracy. Democracy is more than elections. The real essence of democracy is what plays out after the elections. Democracy is about making government work for you. Watch Democracy 101 every weekday at 7:55 p.m. and Sundays at 8:55 p.m. on Channels Television. Democracy 101 in 5 is an initiative of Yaga Africa with support of the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, FCDO.
To give the confidence that only comes from knowing you are fully sorted. To show up for you just when you need a hand. And when retirement comes with all its worries and storms, to ensure we will stand by you and give you the coverage that you deserve. Make the perfect choice. Choose PAL Pensions today.
PAL Pensions, your pal for life.
Yeah, we have resumed. But there are still a lot of work to be done there. There's no conference room, so we are working on a lot of things there. So we have resumed. There's no problem about it. The governor have asked us to go there. We are going. I am, like I always tell people, I am a loyal servant. There's nothing that has changed. I took a personal vow to support my governor, and you can see my Catholic people are here. Everything about me, if I have a vow with God, there's nothing that will change it. And I can only wish that that relationship that we have, I pray, I know in the next few days and weeks, it will come back. I'm missing my governor really, but by the grace of God, I know God will touch the governor's heart and touch all of us. And even those that are trying to be in between, God will touch them to know that I mean well. If there's any mistake that I've made as human, it's just human. It's not out of maybe wickedness, because I'm not wicked. I have a very clean heart. And I will use the medium too to appeal to Mr. Governor. If there's anything that I don't know that I've done, please forgive me, so that we can develop our state together. We have just less than how many months? Just 1 year to go. We have been the envy of the entire country. It's still possible. So, Mr. Governor, please, if there's anything you feel that I've done, I am sorry. I need us to work together to finish well and strong, because that is my prayer for you.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back. That soundbite takes us to the next leg of our conversation. And it's not just in Edo State. In Ondo State, the deputy governor also appears to be in the eye of the storm over allegations that some consider a ruse that has, produced impeachment proceedings against him. And, just as you saw in Edo State, the deputy governor may have eaten the humble pie with that public apology to his boss. That causes, some deep reflection about the office and powers and functions of the deputy governors in the country. Is it just, an appendage to the governor, or are there more powers, that the deputy governor should have? We have joining us to help us expand and, give us further insight into that conversation, Mr. Onweze Okocha, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes. By the way, Mr. Okocha joins us via Zoom. So as we start off, should we look at both cases independently based on their merit, or are they the same? And where does it leave the powers and office of the deputy governors in the country?
Well, I don't know about looking independently at all cases, but I believe the law is clear on the points. The old cliche is that deputy governors are like spare tires. They stay in the boots. Nobody uses a spare tire if all the four tires are working. The truth of the matter, and this is the legal position, is that the vice president, in this case we are talking about the deputy governor, has no specifically assigned functions under the Constitution. Indeed, it is only the governor of a state that can assign responsibilities to his deputy or to any of the commissioners in the state executive council. So a deputy governor does not really have any responsibility until the governor has assigned the responsibility to him. So clearly, no deputy governor can claim to have executive authority over any matter in the state until it has been assigned to him by the governor.
And should that change in the light of what's playing out in states? And, this also has precedent if we consider, past cases where deputy governors have been impeached.
Yes, deputy governors can be impeached, just as governors can be impeached. The Constitution has not been changed, and until it is changed, the situation still remains the same. The constitutional provisions with regard to the matter must regulate the particular circumstances that are now under purview.
I was asking if that should change.
I don't think it should change because the reality of our situation in Nigeria is that when people are given powers, subordinate powers as they may be, they tend to overstep their bounds. The governor is the chief executive of a state, just like the president is the chief executive of the federation of the country. So I don't think it should change. Let things remain as they are. And you see, a governor usually has a prerogative to pick who should be his running mate. And it is expected that that running mate, if they eventually win, becomes deputy governor and will exhibit what we call total loyalty and support for his governor. So it's unheard of that a deputy governor will begin to assert authority which he does not have, to the detriment of the governor.
I'm glad you used the word loyalty. That brings me to my next question. Amid this crisis, the deputy governor had said during one of his interactions with the press that loyalty is different from ambition. So where does a deputy governor begin to cross the line? Is it an offense, an impeachable offense that warrants the kind of treatment that has gone to the Edo State deputy governor for you to consider pursuing political ambition before your tenure with your principal expires?
No. Everybody is entitled to be ambitious. It is not an offense to aspire to be a governor when you're a deputy governor. But in the nature of human relations, you should at least discuss the matter with your governor and get his blessing. He may not give you support, but he may be able to say, okay, I bless you, good luck. And all we know is that the political parties are the vehicles by which they run elections. And you go to your political party and seek support there. But I think it is critical that the governor, being the leader of a party in the state, you should, in all decency, seek his support, seek his blessing. If he gives you, thank God. If he doesn't, then you are walking on your own and go on your own steam. He doesn't owe any apology to be ambitious. He is entitled to it, just like every other Nigerian is entitled to it. So to that extent, there is nothing wrong in seeking to aspire to the office of governor. And I would be surprised that anybody would begin to put too many stumbling blocks along the way. Cooperate with your colleague. You've worked with him for 8 years or more. 8 years or so, and allow him to pursue his own political ambition. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I find it interesting, the other time when you referenced the fact that the governor had the prerogative to select who would be his running mate. Without that running mate, who would become deputy? That fellow cannot be governor. That fact was even further espoused in the case in the election that brought in that the person who would have been governor in Bayelsa State, I think, when the deputy was found to be at fault in one way or the other, and that affected the responsibility, well, the election of the governor at the time. So if it is that important for a governor to have a running mate, how could it be so easy for them to fall off politically or in other way while they are in office?
Let me say this. The requirements for being elected, being nominated, being elected are different. After you've been elected and you've assumed office, different considerations will apply. And you will look at the Constitution and see what is exactly my role and function as a deputy governor. And the Constitution says clearly that you can exercise only those functions and perform those duties that have been delegated to you, that have been assigned to you by the governor. And of course, nobody can begin to exercise a function or perform a duty that has not been assigned to him. So this is the point that needs to be made to all those who are deputy governors, who are vice presidents for that matter. Until the president assigns a function to you, until the governor assigns a function to you, you just stay there and wait until a circumstance may arise. You remember, if there's something like impeachment of the governor, the deputy governor automatically will assume the position. If there's a death or incapacitation of the governor, the deputy governor will automatically ascend to the position. But until those situations occur, a deputy governor, as I said earlier, jocular as it may sound, is just a spare tire. And a spare tire becomes useful when the main tires are no longer working.
Okay. Well, help us understand how much of this is political and how much of this has to do with governance. Because to a good number of people, it's like it's a waste. Well, it's perhaps different for the vice president, who has a role to play as chairman of the Economic Council, the National Economic Council. But for the states, it's a little different. Isn't it a waste then? So if anything needs to happen, what would you recommend? Because without the deputy governor, the governor cannot come into office. And coming into office, you are assigned no role whatsoever. Of course, it's something known to everyone. But in terms of the politics of it, in terms of the governance issues of it, what are the things you would recommend as someone who has seen the scope of the law in this case?
Let me say this. It's not really a waste. As you may know, there are certain laws, there are certain regulations that also have certain assignments to be performed by the deputy governor, like boundary commissions or boundary committees of states, for instance. The deputy governor chairs those committees in the states. The deputy governor also from time to time stands in for the governor if the governor is not available to perform functions. The deputy governor is also a member of the executive council and can contribute to debates at the executive council of the state. So it's not really a waste to have a deputy governor. And you know, anything can happen. A governor may have such a tight schedule and he says, I'm going here, you go there and represent me. And they will state the position of the state. So I don't think it is really a waste. The point is that sometimes ambition and political interests may make some deputy governors to overstep their bounds. And they should be advised that it is not necessary to do so. Hold your ambition. Discuss it with your chief executive. He may bless you, he may support you, but even at that, just hold your ambition until the appropriate time when you can now make your position known.
Well, it's interesting that you put it that way, because, I mean, if it's just because, you know, the deputy governor can easily step in, I'm not sure if it is as easy as that, because we remember what happened when former President Yar'Adua passed, that we had to invoke a doctrine of necessity while there was a vice president in office. So that is against that backdrop. So speaking to the political angle of this conversation, Mr. Kocha, you have said that some of these things have political consideration. It speaks to then maybe the political class needs some education, political education, if I can put it that way. What do they need to know? And what do they need to keep in check so that we don't have this kind of, because it's happened since 1999.
Yes, let me say this. They need to know first that their responsibilities that are called executive responsibilities, and these are vested in the chief executive of the governor of the states, namely the governor of the federation, namely the president. Once people know that, they know that it is the president or the governor that is the main man. Every other person there is, let me use the word advisedly, an appendage. Vice president, deputy governor, ministers, commissioners, and they are given assignment by the chief executive. And you perform what is assigned to you. If nothing is assigned to you specifically, you wait and just carry on in your office. You have an office, you go to the executive council, you attend state functions, and so on and so forth. So that has to be cleared. Now, you refer to the case of when the president, Yaradua, was ill, and the so-called doctrine of necessity. Nigerians came up with that gimmick because some people were not prepared to accept that we had a president who was so ill he could not perform the duties of his office. We didn't need to go to that stage. They could have empaneled a medical board to have given a medical report that the president cannot perform. And once the president cannot perform, he will be removed from office and the vice president will automatically assume that office. But because we were being swayed by those who thought they had the armed forces on their side, all this came about. It was not necessary to go to that stage. But that is in the past now. So clearly, the point that should be made is that the chief executive of the state is the governor. And the vice deputy governor has no specific role until a specific role is assigned to him, either by the governor or by any other law or statute. I just cited the Boundary Commission law of the state. Well, so this is the reality of the situation. We would like to politicize things.
My apologies. Let me just ask this quick one before we wrap it all up. Is there a role for political parties in this? Because sometimes the challenges begin within the political parties, the crisis within the parties spill off or spill over into the offices of these governors, deputy governors, and the rest of them. So is there a role for political parties to ensure that such things don't happen in the states?
There is no constitutional role for political parties in this instance. But there is what we call human intellect and human ability to reason, human ability to use our humanity and our intellect to mediate. Since we cannot, like a political party, see our governor and our deputy governor at loggerheads and allow that to continue. It may lead to crisis and may even cause detriment to the interest of the political party. So the party elders have a responsibility, moral as it is, not legal, to call the two warring parties together and say, see, this is where the line should be drawn. This is what you should do. This is what you should not do. So this is the reason why you have political parties, because it is an association of like minds who have a party ideology that they believe serves their best interests when they want to pursue political ambition. So yes, the party elders, the party itself can intervene and try and broker amicable resolution of difficulties like this between a governor and his deputy.
And indeed, we've had in the past cases where, you know, the impeachment of deputy governors was overturned by the court. And I wonder if the political parties have a role to play in that regard. But don't answer that. We're totally out of time. I would like to thank you very much, Mr. Onweze Okocha, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who joined us via Zoom to weigh in on this conversation. Thank you very much for being on the program. Well,
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Yes, so we have your own contributions to the program this morning. We're starting with Kenneth Abiro, who talks about Mohbad's death, and he says, the protests, though, are influenced by Mohbad's spirit, but it's not from him alone. It's also for other upcoming artists and entertainers who are going through what the late young musician went through. Every bullish, Kabbalistic or monopolistic element in the entire entertainment industry must be eradicated, and the time is now. Today's Nigerian economy doesn't encourage a situation where few people should hijack any business.
Robert Achubede, on the same issue of young people and peer pressure, says when you pay attention to Naira Marley's lyrics and also pay attention to Mohbad lyrics, you will understand that you will understand what pato ranking means by lyrics are more important than beats. We're a lost generation because of societal trends.
And then we have this one, Justice for Mohbad, Dr. Peter Idialu. Apart from justice being sought for Mohbad, this is another opportunity to make the Nigeria police force to take full ownership of a fundamental responsibility to maintain law and order and to protect the citizenry. It is really worrisome, as reports indicate that Mohbad had earlier reported to the police ever since he was being bullied. May his soul rest in peace. That's coming from Peter Idialu.
And this one is coming from Vicot Owo, or maybe Victor. We know Victor Owo. The thing about pressure is it will always be there. We all pass through that some way, somehow. Some of us scaled past the pressures. A bad habit forms when one succumbs to the pressures. A drunkard starts with one glass or shot of alcohol. A drug addict starts with one shot/fix. As parents, we must make our wards know these pressures will come, but let's teach them how to withstand the pressures. The street offers education, violence, drugs, and all one can think of. Have the choice to make. Choose wisely, he ends.
Honorable Ademola Alalade sends a tweet and says, peer pressure has been around for a long time, but the situation in Nigeria is so peculiar with unemployment and the level of poverty that has plagued the country. Government should engage more with young people in the country as they are the future. Well, that's the show this morning. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning and week. Have a wonderful day and a beautiful weekend ahead. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Well, it takes a man and a woman to rear a child, but it takes a village to rear one, to train one, rather. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
And in all that you do, remember, you still have to make that choice to be a better version of you and the best of you that there could ever be. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Neota Igwe. Bye.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television, ubiquitous.
Lights, camera, action, and showtime.
This is a big win for my generation of Africans all over the world.
You don't need no other body.
I want you to listen to me well.
The movies in the beginning was the love of man.
Some amazing talent in Nigeria who were born, raised, they never left, they're there.
Shawty want a medium girl.
Watch entertainment news on Channels Television at these times.